On October 23, 1944, deep in the dark, frost-lined forests of Belgium near the German border, hardened Wehrmacht veterans waited in defensive positions, confident that the next American division to cross their path would be another green, untested unit, easy prey for their rifles and machine guns. They did not know that the enemy they were about to meet, the 104th Infantry Division, the Timberwolves, was unlike any American unit they had faced. Nor did they know that their commander was a man whose name alone would become a warning whispered among German ranks, Major General Terry de la Mesa Allen. Terrible Terry. Allen's life had been forged for war. Born into a family of warriors on April 1, 1888, at Fort Douglas in the Utah Territory, the son of Colonel Samuel Allen, a career officer, and the grandson of Captain Carlos Alvarez de Layame Mesa, who had bled and survived the fields of Gettysburg. From an early age, Allen was steeped in military tradition. He rode before he could read, shot before mastering arithmetic, and learned that courage and initiative mattered more than academic perfection. Yet Allen's path was unconventional. Dismissed from West Point in 1911 for academic failure, he refused to abandon his destiny, earning a commission through sheer determination at Catholic University and proving himself on the Mexican border, where he led 6 cavalrymen against 30 rustlers, capturing or killing them all, defying doctrine to get results. In World War I, Allen's leadership crystallized. Assigned first to supply artillery on the Western Front, he eventually commanded the 3rd Battalion of the 358th Infantry Regiment, 90th Division, and innovated night attacks, recognizing that darkness, so feared by other commanders, could be turned into a weapon. By moving silently, coordinating with simple pre-arranged signals, and using reconnaissance to exploit enemy weaknesses, Allen minimized casualties and maximized shock, lessons he would carry for decades. Between the wars, while the army shrank from millions to barely 130,000 men, Allen trained relentlessly, competing in endurance horseback races across Texas and winning a bronze medal in polo at the 1920 Summer Olympics in Antwerp, Belgium, all while studying military history, dissecting World War I battles, German tactics, and emerging mechanized warfare, preparing for a future conflict that would test every skill he had honed. When World War II erupted, General George C. Marshall, recognizing Allen's unmatched combat leadership, promoted him directly to brigadier general, skipping colonel entirely. And in 1942, Allen took command of the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One, leading them through the landings of Operation Torch in North Africa, where despite 418 casualties on the first day, the division secured its objectives and learned to stand against seasoned German and Italian forces. In Tunisia, Allen faced disaster at Kasserine Pass, where inexperienced American troops faltered under German counterattacks, but he turned catastrophe into victory at Jebel al-Hamra, personally directing artillery and positioning infantry to hold the line, capturing 400 prisoners and proving that leadership and tactical skill could overcome inexperience. The Battle of Guettar cemented his reputation as his division, enduring searing heat and relentless German armor, repelled repeated attacks, demonstrating that American troops, properly led, could stand toe-to-toe with the Wehrmacht. Sicily followed, where the Big Red One landed under fire at Gela, fending off German tanks, and engaged in the grueling mountain battle at Troina, defending against 24 German counterattacks over 6 days, reducing entire companies to half strength, yet pressing forward, clearing buildings street by street, proving Allen's philosophy: relentless aggression, personal leadership, and unyielding courage. Despite his victories, Allen was relieved, demoted, and sent home, the army wary of his unconventional methods and disdain for parade ground discipline, his drinking and his fiery personality. Yet the results of his command were indisputable. Undeterred, Allen took command of the 104th Infantry Division at Quimper, Oregon, composed of young men, mostly farm boys and factory workers, untested in battle, and turned them into a lethal, elite force through the most rigorous training in the U.S. Army. Emphasizing night operations with 30 to 35 hours of tactical instruction weekly, teaching silent movement, navigation, hand signals, and coordinated attacks under total darkness, creating soldiers who could strike at the enemy with precision, disappear, and strike again hours later. When the Timberwolves entered Belgium, the German veterans, expecting an easy fight, were instead confronted with a nightmare. Attacks coming from unexpected directions in total darkness, positions overrun before defenders could respond, artillery firing blindly, and communications failing in the chaos, leaving Germans terrified and demoralized, their intelligence reports warning other units that the Americans owned the night. Over the next months, Allen's division executed night crossings of the Mark River, assaults on fortified positions in the Arkan sector, and defensive operations during the Ardennes offensive, holding critical ground from December 15, 1944 to February 22, 1945, before advancing into Germany, capturing Cologne, crossing the Rhine, and liberating the Nordhausen concentration camp, where soldiers confronted the horrors of industrialized murder and were forced to witness the reality of the regime they had fought. In Halle, Allen negotiated with Count Felix von Luckner, a former German naval officer, saving much of the city while continuing relentless combat, then advanced to link up with Soviet forces, cutting the Third Reich in two. Over 200 days of continuous combat, Allen's 104th Infantry Division achieved every objective, never suffered a major defeat, and transformed from a raw unit into one of the finest assault divisions in the European theater, earning admiration from Omar Bradley, who compared them to veteran divisions despite their brief time in battle. Allen's methods, intense training, night operations, personal leadership, and refusal to accept defeat, proved once again that American soldiers, properly led, could outperform the best of the enemy. After the war, Allen retired to El Paso, Texas. Yet tragedy struck when his son, Lieutenant Colonel Terry Allen Jr., leading a battalion in Vietnam, was killed in a deadly ambush, echoing his father's life of sacrifice. Terry Allen himself passed on September 12, 1969, leaving a legacy of courage, innovation, and leadership that transformed ordinary men into elite soldiers, proving that determination, audacity, and relentless training could defy expectations, create victories, and instill fear in the enemy, a lesson the German soldiers of Belgium learned the hard way. Terrible Terry Allen had returned, and the night belonged to the Americans.